Welcome to today's briefing. I will touch upon a number of important issues and then answer some of your questions as we usually do. Today is the 149th day of Russia's full-scale military aggression on Ukraine, in the heart of Europe. Despite devastating Russian losses of almost 40,000 soldiers, President Putin still tries to destroy Ukraine by military force. He throws more and more of his troops into the fire. Led by President Zelensky, Ukraine continues to fight for its survival. No one in the world expected us to survive the largest military assault in Europe after the Second World War. But despite all odds, we did. In 5 months, we have liberated over 1,000 villages and towns. More than 2,000 still remain occupied by the Russians. Ukraine has paid a very high price to defend its sovereignty and freedom, but we know that the price of losing them would be much higher. In your interviews, you often ask me, what is the status of peace negotiations? When will negotiations resume? When can a peace deal be reached? My answer is simple. When Russia begins to seek peace, not war. Right now, this is not the case. Look at events in Ukraine over the past 2 days. A Russian missile strike on a large humanitarian depot in Mykolaiv, destroying tons of humanitarian aid for children and elderly. A Russian shelling of a central market in Bakhmut, multiple casualties. Yesterday morning, another shelling of heavily populated areas in Kharkiv, killing at least 4 civilians and wounding 25, including a child. Tonight, 100 Russian missiles shelling Nikopol, killing at least 1 civilian. The world has not seen this scale of war crimes and crimes against humanity in decades. This does not look like Russia seeking peace. Unfortunately, Russia seeks war and terror. Russian targeting of civilians is deliberate. This is terrorism, and we demand to legally recognize Russia a terrorist state. What Russian officials say proves that they want war, not peace. Putin's spokesperson stated a few weeks ago that for the war to stop, Ukraine should lay down weapons and accept Russian demands. Putin's foreign minister this week said Russia once again expands its official war aims. Other Russian officials keep repeating that mantra. All objectives of their military aggression will be achieved. I want to make crystal clear. No one in the world has ever wanted this war except Russia and President Putin. And no other country wants peace as much as Ukraine. But the current reality on the ground is that a 40 million nation in Europe has to fight for its survival against military force and terror. Therefore, I have a request to you, media. Please, stop asking Ukraine when peace negotiations will resume and direct these questions to Moscow instead. When will Russia realize that this war will not succeed and it is time to end it and bring invaders back to their families? Russia's invasion is illegal and its forces have nothing to do on Ukrainian soil. The other question I often hear in interviews is the so-called war fatigue. You ask me whether I'm not concerned that foreign governments, in particular in Europe, may get tired of the war and its costs and stop supporting Ukraine. Well, the answer to this question is simple. If they do get tired, the costs will only increase. Putin leaves us all no choice other than to defend our way of life, our stability and well-being. Russia's war is not limited to Ukraine. Putin deliberately wants to ruin the stability and well-being of every European family. He uses energy and food as weapons to increase pressure. In Ukraine, Putin hits civilians with missiles. In Europe, he hits civilians with prices. This is a part of his doctrine. Putin wants to make the life of every European family as miserable as it is for Russian families. By doing so, he pursues 2 goals. First, he wants to show Russians that those wealthy Europeans and North Americans live no better than them, And second, he wants to dictate European governments what kind of concessions they must give to Russia. Ukraine stands in the way of these plans and protects other nations from Russia. With sufficient and lasting support, Ukraine will defeat Putin and prevent him from bringing even more problems to people in Europe, Asia, and Africa. There will always be voices proposing to abandon Ukraine, give Putin what he wants, and maybe he will become more civil. This logic is flawed and dangerously naive. People who make such suggestions are either uninformed about threats coming from Russia or deliberately trying to mislead the public for Russia's benefit. Pacifying Putin by selling out Ukraine is a deal with the devil, which will not bring neither peace nor stability nor security for Europe and the world as a whole. Maximum support for Ukraine is the best guarantee of well-being and normal life for every European family. The cost of sanctions is actually minimal compared to the ability to live a normal life in security, freedom, and confidence. This is what is at stake and what Putin tries to take away from all of us, not only Ukrainians. When I say maximum support for Ukraine, I mean primarily three things: weapons, sanctions, and accountability. We are deeply grateful to all partners who have been providing Ukraine with essential military assistance. This is not charity, but an investment in the national security of our partners and stability across the world. It is simple. As long as Ukraine fights Russia in its territory, Russia has no resources to attack other nations in Europe. On the contrary, if Putin succeeds in Ukraine, he will most certainly try to test NATO's collective security. To avoid that, we propose a fair deal. Partners provide Ukraine all the heavy weapons we need, while Ukraine uses them to defeat Russia in its territory and spare partners the need to fight themselves. We are capable of doing this and have proven it with a number of important victories over the past months. The only reason why Russia has been able to advance in the east of Ukraine over the past months is its enormous advantage in artillery. This is why we urgently need more long-range artillery, multiple launch rocket systems, and 155mm howitzers to be able to prevail. We urge partners to speed up deliveries. We don't have time to wait. We need weapons now because we lose lives every day. We need advanced anti-aircraft and missile defense systems to protect our cities from Russian missile terror that takes numerous civilian lives each week. We need much more armored vehicles and tanks to be able to save lives and liberate our territories, which Russia aims to absorb. President Zelensky's message to partners is simple. Arm Ukraine now so that you don't have to fight yourselves later. We will do the job and destroy Russian evil, which aims to destroy not only us, but the entire democratic world. Russia's primary objective right now is to undermine Western military aid to Ukraine. To achieve that, Russian propaganda spreads disinformation on alleged misuse of Western weapons in Ukraine. I kindly ask you, please do not fall for this narrative because there is no evidence to back any of these false accusations. Ukraine has a well-functioning and advanced weapons control system called SOTA, S-O-T-A. All weapons logistics are also monitored by the NATO system LOG-FAS. Each item of provided support is closely monitored, and all of our partners in the United States, the European Union, and NATO have full confidence in Ukraine's weapons control. Russia pursues the same strategy with sanctions. They try to undermine them by saying that sanctions are ineffective or bring more harm to the countries which apply them. At the same time, paradoxically, Russia uses every opportunity to try to lift sanctions. They are even ready to play their Hunger Games with the world and use its naval blockade of Ukrainian ports to demand the lifting of sanctions. This is the best proof that sanctions actually do work effectively, harm the Russian economy, and reduce Russia's ability to continue its war on Ukraine and Europe. Sanctions pressure must be maintained and increased. In this context, I welcome the EU decision to adopt the seventh sanctions package on Russia. It is not as strong as it should be, but we are grateful for including some important positions, in particular the ban on imports of Russian gold. As long as Russia continues to wage its barbaric war and does not want to seek peace, the pressure must increase. We call on the EU to begin working on the eighth sanctions package without delay. The international Yermak-Makfol group has developed a detailed plan of next sanctions on Russia and roadmaps on them which will effectively stop Putin's war machine. What we need is political will to proceed with these proposals. Cutting all energy dependence on Russia is a matter of survival for Europe. Take the energy gun away from Russian hands and protect ourselves from Putin's energy blackmail. Embargo on Russian gas may be difficult in the short term, but it will effectively disarm Putin and ensure a long-term stability in Europe. Next goal should be Russia's maritime trade. We also insist that all Russian TV channels must be banned from all cable and satellite networks. Russian state media has nothing to do with journalism, alternative views, or freedom of speech. This is pure state propaganda which has only one goal: to destroy democracies and the freedom of speech among all other freedoms. Banning Russian propaganda is the only way to protect democratic freedoms we hold dear. On the accountability front, Ukraine successfully cooperates with the International Criminal Court and other bodies to bring all Russian war criminals to account. Europe has not seen this scale of atrocity crimes since World War II. This is a matter of principle to bring their perpetrators to justice. Russians will pay for every drop of Ukrainian blood and tears. No matter how much time it takes us, all Russian war criminals will face trial. But it is not enough to prosecute the executives. None of these crimes would have been possible without the mother of all crimes, the crime of aggression. This is why we have initiated the creation of a special tribunal for the crime of aggression against Ukraine. This ad hoc tribunal will deal only with specific crime and prosecute Russia's top military and political leadership for planning, launching, and waging an aggressive war on Ukraine. The reason to create such a tribunal is that no other international legal mechanism provides tools to prosecute this crime. We call on all states to support the creation of the tribunal. We cannot let the crime of aggression against Ukraine go unpunished. Otherwise, the danger of war will be looming over every nation in Europe and the world. The possibility of war anywhere will be imminent if we do not punish Russia for what it has done. Ukraine's First Lady has concluded her three-day visit to the United States. She met the presidential couple and a number of key US officials. Olena Zelenska has also become the first ever First Lady to address both chambers of the US Congress. In her powerful and moving speech, she told stories of Ukrainian families ravaged by war and called on members of the Congress to increase support to Ukraine. Ensure that we have enough weapons to protect ourselves while Russia is hit with further sanctions and designated a state sponsor of terrorism. On July 23rd, Ukraine's First Lady Olena Zelenska will gather the world's first ladies and gentlemen for an online summit. This is the second year Ukraine holds such a special event. We are the first country in the world to create an international platform for spouses of leaders. We believe that by joining their public weight and uniting efforts behind important humanitarian and social projects is impactful and helps transform societies for the better. This year's summit will be devoted to post-war recovery and human potential as the main driving force behind it. Furthermore, Ukraine's First Lady will launch an important fundraising campaign at the summit to purchase rapid response vehicles, which will be helping to save Ukrainian lives. Donations will be collected at the United 24 fundraising platform. I am confident the summit will be a very impactful event, and I encourage the media to follow the event this Saturday. Now I stand ready to answer some of your questions.
And the first question comes from Daily Telegraph. Could we please have your assessment of the deal to unlock Ukraine's grain exports? Are there security guarantees from any Western allies to prevent Russia attacking Ukraine's southern ports or vessels traveling in and out of them? And does Kiev trust Russia to uphold its end of the deal?
Ukraine does not trust Russia. I don't think anyone has reasons to trust Russia. We invest our trust in the United Nations as the driving force of this agreement, and as the institution, and personally the UN Secretary General, who also invests his reputation and his capacity in making sure that this deal works and that Russia does not break it as it has broken so many other deals and agreements.
Roberta Lansara from Anconos, Italy. Can Kuleba give us a comment or an appeal or an address to Draghi? And what is his wish in the Italian governmental interregnum before the elections?
Prime Minister Draghi is a big European. He is not only an Italian politician, he is a big European politician. And we regret the recent developments in Italian domestic politics, but it's Italy's internal affairs, and we do not interfere in them. Prime Minister Draghi is a man of principles, of integrity, and he's a capable leader. But it's up for Italians themselves to decide who should run their government. We appreciate everything Prime Minister has done for Ukraine and for Europe in the last months, especially since the beginning of the Russian aggression in Ukraine. He made a number of wise choices. Of course, our expectation is that whatever will be happening in between now and the appointment of the new Italian government will not have any negative impact on the cooperation between Ukraine and Italy in all spheres. And of course, our expectation is that the next Italian government, whoever is going to lead it, will continue the policy of Prime Minister Draghi regarding Ukraine. Thank you.
India Today asks, the Russian foreign minister has said that they are going to expand the ambitions of the war. Is Ukraine prepared for a major offensive? Isn't the West, particularly US, yet to walk the talk on weapons promises?
We are prepared for any kind of development from the Russian side. What Foreign Minister of Russia said once again proves that even top Russian diplomats are in the war and not in the diplomacy mood. They want to conquer, to kill, to destroy. This is their strategy, and they're not even hiding it. Weapons necessary to repel Russian attacks are coming into Ukraine. We are not fully satisfied with the pace of these arrivals, of these deliveries. We are working with partners to make sure that more weapons are coming faster, because Russia doesn't wait. Russia does not give us time to ensure that all these deliveries come in months. We have literally days and weeks to ensure the delivery of necessary weapons. And as I said, we are working with partners on speeding deliveries up, and this is happening.
The last question, if I may, Newsweek USA. Do you believe EU nations will push to ease sanctions on Russia in the fall-winter as inflation and energy costs rise? Have any European colleagues warned Ukraine about growing sanctions fatigue within the EU?
Well, we always have to assess risks appropriately. Of course, some forces in Europe will be putting pressure on the European Union and on member states to ease sanctions. But as I explained in my opening remarks, I think that all European governments should be conscious that appeasing Putin, easing sanctions is not the way to solve problems. It's the road to multiplying problems. We haven't heard any messages about sanctions fatigue, but with every next package being approved by the European Union, we are all approaching a historic moment of sanctioning gas. And this will be quite a battle.
Thank you, that's it.
Thank you very much, stay safe, all the best to you and have a good weekend.